This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
We are going to sail through to another conversation. Of course, we know that in July we saw those unrests, especially in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. Now, there have been great calls for business relief post these unrests, given the devastating effects that were visited upon a variety of businesses of different scale in size, and this morning we are now looking at that initiative that is taking place between the National Empowerment Fund and the Solidarity Fund's Humanitarian Crisis Relief Fund. They announced a financial relief program to support small, medium and micro enterprises to recover from the devastating effects of the riots and unrest. Of course, if you did tune into Power Business a week or two ago, you would have heard Kaya Sitole taking you through to parts of this initiative. But now we are joined on the line by the CEO of the National Empowerment Fund, Philisiwe Mthethwa. Says Philisiwe, good morning to you and welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, Lukhona, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for making the time. I mean, let's probably start off on a broader note as to how this fund between yourselves and the Solidarity Fund came to be. You've established, 450 million rands worth of SMME support program. Just take us through how that fund came about and possibly what it is about before we sort of get into the nitty-gritties of it. Who might qualify? What's your role in it? I know that you are managing it as the NEF because part of it has a grants element because of the Solidarity Fund involvement, and then part of it may have a loan a component of it. But just give us a broad overview how this fund came about.
Thank you, Lukhona, and thank you to your listeners as well. So as you have correctly, captured it, we are dealing with the aftermath of the looting and the social unrest that we saw in areas around Gauteng and in KZN. So where, for instance, the NEF employees in partnership with the DTIC had to actually undertake the initial assessment just to assess the impact, of the unrest on businesses, and to have, an estimate of the cost that would be involved just in terms of rebuilding and the reconstruction of all the properties. That includes the shopping malls, it includes the shops within those malls, it includes the logistics, businesses, that are involved in the actual transportation of goods between Gauteng and other areas. So in this particular instance, it would be your logistics companies that were moving goods between Gauteng and KZN. So we undertook that initial assessment just to have this estimate. So the estimate, the figure that we got from the Minister of Trade and Industry is estimated at more than 20 billion rands. So that is the extent of the damage. I'm aware that other organizations are estimating it to be around 30 billion. So I just wanted to give you this, initial, assessment so that you can actually understand, the severity of the issues that we're dealing with. So then, as a result of that initial assessment, then the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, obviously through the National Treasury, allocated an initial amount of 650 million to the NEF, so that the NEF could then, find ways of providing financial support to the companies that were affected by the looting. So our employees have been physically on the ground. They've been crisscrossing the country. Obviously started here in Gauteng, ended up going to KZN. We were not even aware when we started doing this work that, the looting went to even remote areas in KZN. We've been to Ugu, Umzimkhulu, Herikwala region, Nongoma, in all of those areas, because what we saw obviously in the media were businesses that are actually located mostly in the townships around Durban and, in the city centers. So it was widespread. It was.
Now, Sis Philisiwe, I understand that the turnaround time might need to be much faster for this fund because of that devastation. And you are talking about the assessments that have been made. Sasria has made its own assessments because of the implications for them to pay out those insured establishments. I wonder, how have you managed to create a system that is probably as responsive as possible within the demands of due diligence from your end as you disperse these funds?
Obviously, Lukona, we had to hit, the ground running. We had to streamline our investment processes. For instance, our investment committee, we used to meet once a week. But as we currently speak, we have an investment committee as I speak to you. So we've been having our investment committees almost on a daily basis, as and when the investment professionals are ready to submit the investment reports. We would not say, it's late, in the afternoon. Our meetings will even start at 5. But we streamline our investment processes. We don't write the lengthy reports, investment reports that we would write if we are finding that particular business for the first time. In this particular instance, this is a relief. We are providing to the companies. So we still want to see the financials of the company, because one of the mantra we've been using in providing this financial support is to say we want to build back better. So which means if a company, for instance, was beginning to have, some financial experience, some financial distress, when we come in with the financial support, we want to make sure that as we will be providing the support, we'll also find a way of turning that particular company around. So the investment professionals who are interacting with the business people on the ground, they take forms to them. So they will even sit with the business owners. They will take them through the forms, whether they want to do it electronically or if they want to do it manually. But we take those forms and sit with the business owners. So far we have approved transactions that are worth more than 600 million, and it's about 80-something businesses that we have supported so far. Yeah. That was before we entered into this partnership with the Solidarity Fund. So coming back to the partnership with the Solidarity Fund, I just wanted to give you that background.
Let's just hold that thought there. I want to pay a few bills and then we delve into this partnership, because it has now created a blended loan and grant offering that you are now embarking on with the Solidarity Fund. After this short break, we will then delve into how do people qualify, what is the scope of businesses that you are looking at supporting. People of Power, I'm in conversation with the CEO at the National Empowerment Fund, Philisiwe Mthethwa. If you do want to pose a question to her about this initiative that they're embarking on, Relief Fund with Solidarity Fund for businesses impacted upon by the July unrest. 0861 987 000 is the dial. 16 minutes to 11.
You're listening to Power Talk, 9 a.m. to noon.
Looking at NEF's partnership with the Solidarity Fund, helping there with the post-unrest business relief. So, this blended financing model, how is it going to work? Who can benefit from this initiative?
Thank you, Lukona. Maybe let me just also acknowledge, the management and the board of the Solidarity Fund, and just to express our gratitude. Obviously, I'm doing this on behalf of all the enterprises that were affected by the riots, because what this fund, now the partnership with the Solidarity Fund will do is that there is going to be a grant portion that will be given to the qualifying enterprises. So what that does, because remember, nobody had anticipated that one day we would wake up, as a country and find ourselves in this situation. So you'll find that some of the enterprises that are located in the townships and in the rural economies, that they were not sufficiently covered by insurance, or that there was a shortfall.
Yeah.
So what we'll be doing, we'll assess a transaction. For instance, if the total requirement is 10 million rands, look by just assessing the cash flows of the business, the financial projections, we may then decide that with that particular business, 10 million will go in as a grant portion, and then the 60% will go in as a loan. The loan is going to be offered at 0%. So that's the level at which we're offering the loan amount. So in other instances, out of the 10 million, it will be 50-50. So 50% loan financing and 50% grant portion. So it just depends on the types of risks that particular business will be associated with. So, and then the funding criteria is just your normal, criteria that the applicant must be a registered company in good standing with with trust. So if they are not in good standing, we also assist the companies just to make sure that, we comply with all the relevant laws of the country. The business must be located in Gauteng or KZN, or must demonstrate that it was affected by the riots and the unrest. So let's say for logistics businesses, a truck was moving from Mpumalanga, trucks were moving from Mpumalanga to KZN. Yeah. So we won't say because, that company is located in Mpumalanga, it will not get, this support. So I think, and then obviously they must demonstrate that the jobs lost during the unrest will be restored or increased within 12 months of funding. And where business is in short, funding can be provided as bridging finance against the cession by the insurance company of the insurance proceeds. So those are the guidelines at a high level.
Philisiwe,
yes.
Just on that point of the high level guidelines, I'm wondering of a business that has incurred such great loss, it has closed shop, and the person is finding it difficult to service the debt that was carrying the business, and for good reason, they can't reopen, perhaps even in the next 12 months. Are you saying that there is no scope of assistance for such cases, perhaps?
We haven't come across businesses that would be in that situation. Be a business, I think they're in Ladysmith or Newcastle, I can't remember. So this particular entrepreneur, I think it was mostly because of, depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
Had just decided to close shop. Not because it had anything to do with the
viability of the business itself.
So we had to spend a lot of time with that particular entrepreneur just to, give him the comfort that the NEF and the DTIC will be there to make sure that, he succeeds in the rebuild and the reconstruction, phase of his business. But what we have also realized is that these businesses, don't just require financial support. There is also, I don't know what I will call it, because this has caused a lot of, depression, anxiety, we have not focused on the psychological impact,
Yes.
of what really happened on the ground, and the psychological impact on the entrepreneurs who had invested,
Absolutely.
all their hard-earned earnings in these businesses, and one day you wake up, there's nothing. So I think it's something that our government must also look into. And not just provide the financial support. So in an instance where a business, so we come in and then we realize that there's no way this particular business will be able to repay the loans. Obviously, there are other ways of coming up with the restructuring of the facilities that we are putting in place. We can provide the moratorium or moratoria, interest rate holidays. So there are a lot of, innovative ways of looking at it. But we haven't come across a business that won't even absorb just a small amount because the debt is coming in at a 0% interest rate, which then in a way provides a bit of relief to the businesses that we are looking at.
Absolutely. I mean, conversation with the CEO at the National Empowerment Fund, this is Philisiwe Mthethwa, just talking through the fund that is going to be helping SMMEs with the post-unrest business relief. Mpho, I see you on the line, 0861 987 000. Perhaps, Sis Philisiwe, people are always anxious about the loan component as to, when will it be expected to be repaid? What will be the interest implications on it? Can you just take us through some of that?
So the loan portion, we provide, a small relief because they can only start repaying that portion after 12 months. But also after the initial 12 months, we will then go into the business just to look at the financial performance of the business. If there's a need for us to roll it over again, it's at 0%, so which is, I think, very good for the enterprises that we're talking about. So at the end of the 12-month period, there's also the possibility of converting 30% of the total funding into a grant portion. That is provided the business was able to preserve and maintain the jobs that were there before they were hit by the riot.
Okay, let me just take Mpho on the line. Mpho, good morning.
Hey, Lukonyo, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Hey, good, my brother. Listen, Lukonyo, I just want to ask Umama lapho ukuthi how other provinces, are they funding them also? Because the one that they were not affected, but they were affected by the lockdowns, all those levels that they were, because I'm under a tourism site myself, so, and I've been affected so much. So are they also considering then, since they are partnering with Solidarity Funding? Okay,
thanks, Mpho. I think you might have a different scheme or that falls somewhere else within the DTIC department, Sis Philisiwe.
Yes. So we have a fund that is called Economic Distress Fund. That is the fund that is looking at providing support to Black-owned businesses that are experiencing any form of financial distress as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we're doing this for recovery purposes and also to make sure that we sustain the existing jobs or improve the productive capacity of those businesses. So it's obviously a loan and equity, depending on what we're going to be looking at, the types of risks, we'll be trying to mitigate. And it starts from 250,000 and it goes up to 10 million. And the maximum interest rate for this fund is 2.5%.
I wonder though, I mean, Mpho's question triggers something in me, Mrs. Philisiwe. I mean, when you do value chain analysis, you might find that somebody in a different province was affected by sheer unavailability of certain, goods that couldn't be transported to them because of the unrest, and not just necessarily people in the logistics space, but if I rely on goods coming from Durban and they are not coming, my business then takes a knock. How do you tread still, how do you go through that process of a person who might say, well, I'm not headquartered in Gauteng or KZN, but I was definitely impacted upon by the unrest?
We will look into them, Lukhona, but remember that you remember I started with a 20 billion rand, level of damage that we are trying to deal with. So that 1 billion for now is looking at rebuilding the businesses that, I have already made reference to, because if you open it a bit wide, it won't even cover, the businesses that I was mentioning to you. So which is why I was saying we do have the Economic Distress Fund, but the IDC has even a much, bigger allocation than the NEF. We have, the total amount we're looking at is 1 billion plus the portion we're doing with the Solidarity Fund. Whereas the IDC, I think they have an allocation of more than 3 billion rand. So they are also trying to do the same thing. So I don't want to come here over-promise and then under-deliver. Yes.
No, absolutely. I wonder, though, in the last year, you've had a number of experiences with these type of funds and doing funding during the times of COVID-19. What are some of the key lessons you've taken?
Obviously, it talks to the streamlining of our processes. So what it says that going forward, we can actually try and achieve, even though obviously you would still be expected to do more comprehensive and detailed investment reports. But there are better ways now with, the introduction of these new technologies of even conducting a virtual due diligence, which is something that we're not exposed to in the past. So I would say that it's the level of agility, and the level of speed with which we're able to, to finalize some of these transactions. Like for the COVID-19 Black Industrialist, fund, there we had received 200 million rand allocation from the DTIC for concessionary funding of black businesses that were supposed to manufacture and supply healthcare products and essential foods as part of the fight against the pandemic. And I must say that we have fully disbursed the 202 million that was allocated to us, and 33 transactions or 33 businesses have benefited from that. So obviously we're now trying to help these businesses, to also get, business, whether be it from the private sector or from government, but a lot of them are doing extremely well.
No, thank you for that. Nico, let me give you a quick one.
Yes, thank you. Nico here from Pretoria. I just wanted to find out, as a developmental credit provider, how is it that we could partner with the NEF in initiatives such as these, especially alleviating in rural communities and businesses affected? Okay,
thank you. So Philisiwe, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond to that.
So let's rather, talk. My number is 011305 8159. I don't think we can, discuss it here because obviously I would just need to get, more
bit of
details.
Understanding as to what type.
Yes.
But is there scope to partner with independent fund managers?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I would want to understand their sectoral focus, how are they structured and all of those things. And they must understand our processes as well in investment criteria.
Okay. Philisiwe, Nigo will be connected with your office via Snetemba. Thank you so much, though, for your time this morning.
Thank you, Lukhona, for having me.
Okay, fantastic. That's the CEO at National Empowerment Fund, Philisiwe Mthethwa. Let's pay some bills before Power News.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.